Both of these firearms share a secret. At first glance, it appears I have on the bench with me two rifles that couldn't be further apart in terms of origin, development, and use case. This one appears to be a short magazine Lee Enfield MkIII, mainstay of the British Army during both World Wars. Next up is what looks like an American-made vintage Marlin model 1893, popular with frontiersmen and big game hunters on this side of the pond. What do these two firearms have in common? Neither one of these are actually rifles. Let's take a closer look at each of them to uncover why they might deserve a place in your collection. Scott Owens here with Mimosa Research. On this channel, we look at military and modern small arms from the collector's perspective. Today, let's dive into a curious niche of collecting, the 410s that look like rifles. Let's start off with the Lee Enfield. I was browsing the MkIII selection at one of my local gun stores a few weeks back when I spotted a small selection of Lee Enfields. I'm on a bit of a Lee Enfield kick at the moment, so they had my curiosity. I passed over a drill purpose rifle and picked up a beautiful 1953 factory thorough rebuild to admire. I decided I needed that in my life, and I set it aside for purchase. Meanwhile, I picked through some other recently imported relic grade guns, but one caught my eye. Unlike all the others, it had no magazine, which was really unusual. Closer inspection revealed it had a wooden plug where the magazine would go. They had my curiosity, but now they had my attention. Immediately, I suspected a 410 conversion rifle. I checked out the barrel from the muzzle end, and the gigantic bore with lack of any rifling confirmed it. This was definitely not a 303. A quick consult with Henry over at AudioZen, and he helped me evaluate both this and the 53 FTR. Looking at the socket, we can see that this Mark III was originally made in 1915 at the Royal Small Arms Factory, Enfield. It would have had volley sights and probably a magazine cutoff. By 1931, it had somehow made its way to the jewel in the crown and was converted by the Rifle Factory Ishapore, or RFI, into a smoothbore musket that fired either 410 ball round or buckshot rounds for riot control. The brass for these unique rounds were constructed from unnecked 303 rifle brass, and in the case of the ball round, simply crimped over the ball itself. This simplified both logistics and manufacturing for this POF, or Pakistan Ordnance Factory, ammunition. During conversion, the buttstock received the wonderful Ishapore cartouche, and a nice brass unit identification disc still remains. Being originally a British-made SMLE, it didn't get the much derided Ishi screw on the stock. So, kind of the best of both worlds. Huge patches were put in place on the stock to eliminate outdated features, such as the volley sights, or to make repairs where necessary. The barrel was bored out to 410, and this example retains a bright, beautiful, smooth finish. In terms of production numbers, I've seen estimates of 250,000 converted 410 muskets made from the 1920s up until 1950. Considering the millions of Mark IIIs and Rifle No. 1 Mark IVs made over that same time period, I wouldn't call these rare, but I would call them harder to find. Tens of thousands of these 410 conversions were imported by many MkIII importers over the years. Pop off the rear fore end of this one, and you'll see it was imported by Springfield Sporters out of Pennsylvania, no relation to Springfield Armory. They seem to be active up until the early 2000s. More recently, Century Arms and even Royal Tiger Imports have been seen importing these, but to be honest, most of the RTI stuff is complete trash these days. It was common here in the US to have the current chamber opened up to accept the modern 2.5-inch 410 shotgun shell, and as an option, you could get a chambering to accept a 3-inch 410. Less common was keeping the original brass musket chambering. This one retains the original chambering, which is a blessing from a collectability standpoint, but could be a curse for usability. To check which chambering an example has previously fired 310 brass, will fit tight in the original chambering and very loose if bored out for a modern 410. Going the other way, a modern 410 won't even come close to fitting in the original brass round chambering, and this of course is a snap cap, but I will demonstrate for you super quick as I go over switch views. Let's take a look at how these two fit in this particular example. Okay, so I've changed views a little bit here, and let me open up the chamber here. I'm first going to get a 410, right? So there's a 410 snap cap. As I pop it in here, you can see that is absolutely as far as it goes. And by the way, that pops in there so tight, I actually need to get a little rod to pop it out. So I'll be right back. Okay, actually I just popped the butt on the ground and that seemed to pop it out. But now I'm going to get a previously fired 303 British brass. As I pop that in there, you can see it fits beautifully, nice and tight, no kind of wiggling or anything like that. That's a good way to tell if it's in its original chambering or if it's been chambered for an actual modern 410. And I'm gonna pop this guy back. A substantial amount of original POF 410 ammo was imported into the US a few years ago, so it's not impossible to find these days. I may have to track some of that down. Back when they were plentiful, these could be had in good condition for under a Benjamin. These days, depending on condition and chambering, they can still be had for cheap, but prices have risen. A great and fun variation to collect. To be honest, I have seen these in pretty good condition, and I may have suffered from excited delirium when I found this one. I was simply excited to see one in the flesh, so I had to have it. Oh well, I've made worse decisions in my life. A quick sidebar, these were originally intended for Indian militia or guard units. And a reason I have seen given over the years that the power that be decided that arming large swaths of the population was unwise is that they could use accurate SMLEs to stage effective revolt against their colonial rulers. In completely unrelated news, these 14 conversions are popular in Britain because they can be held on a less restrictive shotgun permit that does not require an owner to demonstrate good purpose for having one. However, you still must pay £194, which is $253 in real money, for a 5-year certificate, and £126 or $165 on each renewal. I did find a part missing on my 410 musket, this rear sight's barrel screw. Once again, Henry at Ardio's Inn had the part I needed, and it's being shipped out to me as I record this video. I can't thank him enough for his support and highly recommend him for your Commonwealth Arms needs. Now let's focus our attention on the Marlin Stockholders special. In 1929, Marlin had a proposition for you. Buy $100 worth of stock and they would give you $31 worth of product. The product? Well, a model 1893 chambered in the 2.5-inch 410, of course. These unique rifles became known as Stockholder Specials, and later in the run, they could be bought commercially in either standard grade or deluxe grade. Barrel choices were most commonly 26-inch or a far more rare 22-inch version. Actions were blued, levers were case hardened. Visually, these differed from other 1893s by a far more bulbous front end with a groove on the standard editions. Deluxe versions had checkering here, and the pistol grip was checkered as well. The original run went from 1929, the very poor timing to be buying stock in retrospect, up until 1932. Production run was thought to be less than 6,000 in number. Serial number ranges have been seen with between 2 and 4-digit numbers, no letter prefix, and up to a single letter prefix with 3-digit numbers following. Letter prefixes have been seen up to at least U. It may go beyond that. This one is serial number 103 and has been in my family since at least 1970, maybe even earlier. I've been entrusted as its caretaker by a treasured aunt, and I couldn't be happier to be given that opportunity. This is an example of a standard model with the 26-inch barrel. It does have two unfortunate modifications. A Packmeyer butt pad was installed in place of the original, and it looks like the tang was drilled and tapped for some reason, perhaps a peep sight. Why anyone would put a peep sight on a 410, I just don't know. Nevertheless, it remains a treasured possession, and its sentimental value outweighs any concern over perceived value losses due to these modifications. The lever action on this one is so smooth, it's like speed skates on ice. The trigger is amazing. You think to yourself, shoot, and like telepathy, the gun has already heeded your commands. The finish certainly shows its age, but like Helen Mirren, it just keeps getting better looking as the years pile on. I absolutely love this thing. While the 410 version was gone from the Model 1893 lineup by 1932, the line itself survived. After some very minor changes to the sights and the wood, the Model 1893 was renamed to the Model 1936 in that very year. Just 1 year later, it was again renamed to the Model 36. 1948 brought some additional changes and another name change, this time to Model 336. It survives today as one of the most prolific big game rifles in existence. Not in the 410 Chambering, obviously. The 410 Chambering made brief and sporadic appearances in the 336 between 2004 and 2009 with a couple of variations. And then again in 2020 as Remington took over the brand and ran it into the ground. Recently, Marlin's would be highly sought after for its stainless steel big bore extended hoop Model 1895 versions popularized by on-screen fictional characters such as Chris Pratt as he hunts dinosaurs. I'm sure few people realize that at one point in its life, its little brother was out there getting squirrels and birds with a 410 Chambering offering. So next time you pick up a vintage rifle at your local gun store, it might not be what you think it is. And whomever priced it may not have known either. Good luck on the hunt, and I hope I've earned your subscription today. Thanks for watching.